Welcome back, viewers, to a List of Legends list, and on today's list we're going to be ranking the 3 SpongeBob movies and how each movie holds up. Now, I actually did make a video called the SpongeBob movie vs. Sponge Out of Water about 6 months ago, but since I had a problem with my editing, the video wasn't complete. So today we're going to be completing it while adding the 3rd SpongeBob movie. Before we begin, make sure to hit that like button and maybe consider subscribing so I know you like my content. With all that said, let's begin. Starting things off at my 3rd ranking, I chose Sponge on the Run, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But before I get into that, I do want to make myself crystal clear by saying Sponge on the Run is not a bad movie by any means. It just doesn't hold a candle to the other 2 movies in my opinion. And my first reason for this is the story. The story follows SpongeBob and Patrick on a road trip to find Gary as he has been snail napped. So yeah, right away I'm seeing very similar elements from the first movie, and not only that, but we already saw a Gary snail napping episode back in season 4. But that's besides the point. Moving on to my second reason is the pacing. Sponge on the Run starts off incredibly slow, with some scenes being stretched out so far that it's like the writers did everything they could to make this into a movie rather than a regular SpongeBob TV special. And don't get me started on the bar scene. El Diablo was the sorriest excuse for a boss I've ever seen in a movie, and the song holds nothing compared to Now That We're Men. Camp Coral is also something I think most of us can agree was something this movie didn't need at all. It isn't until halfway through the movie where I'd say things get more interesting with Atlantic City being showcased. Overall, to me, you could basically say Gary's the crown, SpongeBob and Patrick have to rescue him, King Poseidon is basically King Neptune, and Plankton being the one who sent the crown away to Shell City. In this, he sent Gary away. Seeing what I'm seeing? Sponge on the Run is basically a rehashed version of the first SpongeBob movie. Now let's talk about the good for Sponge on the Run. Because it's not all bad, first is the new style. This is something kinda new, since after all we did get to see this in Sponge Out of Water, but that was only for the last part of the movie anyway, so I won't be counting that. But we do get to see SpongeBob in CGI for the whole movie, and that's actually pretty awesome. Another thing I like about this movie is the visuals. When you see Atlantic City on your screen, it's nothing short of amazing, and really just eye candy to watch. Lastly, seeing Keanu Reeves on my screen was definitely something I didn't mind at all. So overall, Sponge on the Run may have its many faults, but that doesn't mean it's unwatchable, and it's SpongeBob, so you can't completely complain. But in short, this is why it's at my 3rd ranking. Following Sponge on the Run, we have Sponge Out of Water. Right off the bat, the big problem I had with this movie was in the title itself, Sponge Out of Water. However, they aren't actually out of water until the last 30 minutes or so of the movie, which definitely feels misleading. Next up is Burger Beard, and if I'm being honest, he doesn't seem villain worthy at all. He doesn't have really much, if any, good lines throughout the whole movie, and it's nothing short of cheesy. Almost as cheesy as the rap song at the end, which compared to Ocean Man is just sad. Moving on to the good for Sponge Out of Water, the team up of SpongeBob and Plankton. Seeing these 2 enemies team up to retrieve the formula was a nice twist from the first movie, and since usually Plankton and SpongeBob are working against each other. Another thing I liked about Sponge Out of Water is the emotions. Did anyone else actually feel for Plankton for not only being blamed for the missing formula, but also for his goodbye to Karen? It was just heartbreaking to see and actually made you feel for Plankton. Another good thing you could say is more characters are involved in the boss fight, with SpongeBob, Patrick, Sandy, Plankton, and Mr. Krabs vs. Burger Beard. Each character gets their fair share of screen time, which is something that I think actually does a little better compared to the first movie. Overall, Sponge Out of the Water is a pretty good movie, and it has more good than bad, especially compared to Sponge on the Run. Now it's time for our number 1 ranking. I'm sure most of you saw this coming, but did you really expect anything else? Of course, it's the first SpongeBob movie. What else is there to say other than it's a perfect movie? Now, to be completely fair and unbiased by the whole nostalgia thing, I really tried as hard as I could, possibly looking at every angle that could make this movie have something groundbreaking bad about it, and the only thing I could come up with is what I said above, with possibly incorporating more characters and giving them more screen time. But even with that, I couldn't think of anything else I didn't like about this movie, because honestly, what's not to like? This movie had everything there was needed to be in a good movie. The story, a road trip with SpongeBob and Patrick to save the town and Mr. Krabs, which took place in the earlier seasons, which is a bonus. The pacing was perfect, with time for development, with scenes not being too fast nor too slow. The jokes were comedy gold, and it really does hold up even today. The emotional trying to save Mr. Krabs and proving that kids can do something, it's all just heartwarming as well as heartbreaking to watch. Seeing Plankton accomplishing sealing the formula, the songs Now That We're Men, We're All Goofy Goobers, and Ocean Man, all just perfect. Everything was. Just really 5 stars, and I don't think there is anything else to say, but this movie is clearly the winner of the 3, and for good reason. Alright viewers, that's the end of our list. Be sure to let me know what list you would like to see next. With all that said, I look forward to seeing you with our next list.